She looked like someone's grandmother, gray curls, soft voice, quiet eyes behind thick glasses. The kind of person you'd trust to watch your kids or feed the cat while you're away. But what police discovered inside her small St. Petersburg apartment was beyond anything they expected. A human head boiled in a pot, a diary filled with confessions written in Russian, English, and even German, and the woman behind it all, smiling, calm, almost proud. Let's step inside the chilling world of Tamara Samsonova and find out how a gentle old woman became known as the Granny Ripper. When I first came across her name, it didn't sound like someone dangerous. Tamara Mitrofanovna Samsonova. Just an elderly woman living alone in a Soviet-era apartment building in St. Petersburg, Russia. Neighbors called her polite, quiet, even helpful. She was often seen sweeping the stairwell or chatting calmly in the hallway. No one, and I mean no one, thought this 70-something lady had a secret life darker than a horror movie. But here's the thing. The building she lived in, it had a smell. Not always, but often enough. People said it came from her apartment. They thought maybe her fridge broke down, or maybe she had too many cats. But no one investigated. No one thought it was that serious. And that's what makes this story even scarier, because the truth was just behind one locked door. A door no one dared to open. It started with a missing person report. An elderly woman named Valentina Ulanova, 79 years old, had stopped answering her phone. She lived just a few minutes from Samsonova. In fact, they lived together. Tamara had been staying at Valentina's place for a while, helping out, sharing meals. Everyone assumed it was just two old friends supporting each other in their final years. But when Valentina went silent, a relative called the police, and that's when things got strange. The door to Valentina's apartment was unlocked. The rooms were clean, too clean. The kind of clean you only see when someone is trying to hide something. And in the garbage bins outside, they found something that should never be there. A headless body, wrapped in a shower curtain, with the arms and legs missing. Police checked the building's cameras. The footage from a few nights earlier showed something chilling. A small figure, carrying heavy black trash bags, one at a time. Walking slowly, calmly, as if she were taking out ordinary garbage. It was Tamara, 71 years old, dragging what appeared to be her friend's dismembered body to the curb, piece by piece. When officers knocked on her door, she answered with a smile. She didn't run. She didn't deny it. She invited them in as if they were there for tea. And what they found inside her apartment, that's when everything changed. Because inside were pages and pages of her handwriting. A diary. A real-life horror story written by the sweetest-looking woman on the block. When they opened her diary, it didn't just have shopping lists or family memories. It had death. Page after page written in Russian, English, and German described what sounded like confessions. There were dates, names, locations, and what happened to certain people. One line read, "I killed my tenant Volodya, cut him into pieces in the bathroom with a knife, put the pieces in plastic bags, and threw them away." That wasn't a metaphor. She meant it literally. Police were stunned. Was this the diary of someone who had lost touch with reality? Or was she documenting crimes she had really committed? They had to find out who Volodya was and whether the story matched real disappearances. Spoiler, it did. Volodya, short for Vladimir, was a man who had once rented a room in Samsonova's apartment. She had taken him in during the early 2000s. He paid rent, stayed quiet, but then he reportedly stopped paying. And that, according to her diary, was when she took matters into her own hands. The story she wrote down said she gave him sleeping pills in his food, then waited until he was unconscious, and dismembered him in her bathtub. This wasn't a new discovery either. Back in 2003, a man's body was found dumped in the exact area described in her journal. The body was in pieces. The head was missing, and no one had ever been arrested until now, because the diary matched the case perfectly. But the most disturbing part, that was still coming. Back to Valentina's apartment, where police had first questioned Samsonova. As they looked around the kitchen, one officer opened the lid of a pot on the stove and froze. Inside was a head, boiled, unmistakably human. To this day, authorities have not publicly confirmed if the remains had been cooked for any other purpose. But the speculation, it spread fast. Some believed she wasn't just hiding the evidence. Some believed she might have consumed it. Now let me ask you this. What drives someone, especially someone in their 70s, to write detailed murder notes, keep body parts, and remain so calm about it? Is it pure evil, or a deeply hidden sickness, or maybe something even stranger? We still don't have all the answers, but we're not done yet. As police dug deeper into Tamara Samsonova's past, they made a discovery that raised even more red flags. She wasn't just a quiet old lady living off a pension. She had once worked at a prestigious hotel, the Grand Hotel Europe, and later she spent a lot of time in and out of psychiatric hospitals. Some of her neighbors whispered that she had a strange side. She would sometimes talk to herself in different languages. She once accused someone of stealing her towels, then cursed them in German. Other times, she could be caught laughing to no one at all. But here's what's chilling: her psychiatric history wasn't just a side note. It was long, detailed, and filled with missed chances to intervene. Authorities later confirmed she had been hospitalized multiple times for serious mental health issues. So here's the question: did the system fail to stop her? Or did she hide her true self too well? Police began translating every single page of her handwritten diaries. It was like peeling back the layers of a mind that never rested. Some entries were harmless. Descriptions of daily chores, the weather, what she cooked for dinner. Others were haunting. One described a time when she felt the urge again. Another described the perfect knife she kept under her bed. Some pages referenced dates that lined up with unsolved disappearances in the area, but the names were either abbreviated or left out. Investigators weren't sure how many deaths to link to her. Was it 2, 5, 10? One detective was quoted saying, "We may never know how many people she really killed." And honestly, looking at how calm she was during questioning, that might be true. When Tamara Samsonova finally appeared in court, the room fell silent. She walked in slowly, hands folded, hair brushed neatly, wearing a soft cardigan. She smiled, not a big smile, not a mocking one, just a calm, grandmotherly expression, like she had no idea why everyone was staring. When the judge asked if she understood the charges, she nodded politely, then said, "Yes, I'm guilty. I did it." Just like that. No emotion, no panic, no drama. She even blew a kiss to the camera as she was escorted out. And that moment, it went viral across Russia, then the world's, because it didn't make sense. How could someone who looked like your next door neighbor be capable of something so inhuman? What was hiding behind that gentle smile? After her arrest, Tamara was placed under psychiatric evaluation. Doctors wanted to understand her mind, what drove her, what she remembered, what she believed. But the answers they got, they were confusing and chilling. Tamara claimed she wasn't acting alone. She spoke of voices, not metaphorically, literally. She said she was being guided, that something or someone was telling her what to do. One psychiatrist said her delusions were complex, involving secret codes, foreign agents, even dark energy. At one point, she even claimed she was part of a ritual and that she had to complete a mission. Now, here's where it gets disturbing. Some entries in her diary do mention strange rituals, not just violence, but candles, moon phases, even references to cleansing the soul. So, what was this? Mental illness or something she truly believed was real? Either way, it added a whole new layer to her already disturbing story. Once the news broke, families of missing people began calling the police. Some had lost relatives years earlier. Some lived in the same district as Tamara. And a few had one thing in common: their loved ones had known her. The police couldn't confirm it all, not without names or forensic proof. But Tamara's diary listed at least 11 incidents where a person had left, vanished, or was taken care of. And when she was asked directly how many people she had harmed, she smiled, then whispered, "It's not important anymore. They're gone." Let that sink in. She didn't give a number. She didn't deny it. She didn't even seem to care, as if death was just something she'd gotten used to. But what if she had done more? What if some of the disappearances that are still unsolved today lead back to her? In 2015, Tamara Samsonova was officially ruled mentally unfit to stand trial. Instead of prison, she was transferred to a secure psychiatric hospital in Kazan, where she still remains to this day. When she was escorted out of the courtroom for the last time, she didn't cry, didn't look back, didn't ask for mercy. She waved, not a sad wave, not even a goodbye, a wave like she was leaving a dinner party. And that image, a sweet-looking woman waving, after confessing to possibly multiple killings, became one of the most unforgettable moments in Russian true crime history. So here's the real question I still can't answer. Was she a master manipulator, a deeply disturbed woman lost in delusion, or something else entirely? Criminal psychologists were brought in to study Tamara Samsonova, not just to assess her mental state, but to figure out what made her so different. One expert said something that stuck with me. She was not impulsive. She was methodical, cold, calculated. She planned, wrote it down, and carried it out like a routine. This wasn't a case of someone suddenly snapping. This was long-term behavior. Some experts suggested she might have been living with paranoid schizophrenia, a condition that can lead to delusions, hallucinations, and a detachment from reality. But others weren't so sure. They pointed out how carefully she cleaned the crime scenes, how precisely she wrote in her diary, how she chose her words. Was it possible she knew exactly what she was doing? And if so, what does that say about her smile in court, her wave, her diary? Was that all a performance? Or was it something even more terrifying? Her real self. Let's go back to her home. Police spent hours cataloging every item inside her apartment, and what they found was chilling. The place was filled with old books about occultism, handwritten notes, and religious icons. Some described it as a strange mix of church and ritual site. There were also knives, not just kitchen knives, but specialty blades, neatly arranged and cleaned. Her bathtub had deep scratches along the surface, possibly from trying to drag something heavy. The fridge had meat stored in unlabeled containers. Police never confirmed what kind. One investigator told local media, "It felt like walking into someone else's mind, like every object in that home had a reason, a dark reason. And through it all, the one thing that kept surfacing was how normal it all looked from the outside. Curtains, a teapot, doilies. You'd never guess that horror had taken place right there for years. There's one detail that almost every witness, officer, and expert mentioned: her smile. Even when discussing the darkest things, she smiled. Not in a mocking way, not in anger, just calm, as if she'd made peace with it all. It's what made the case so unforgettable, so disturbing, because it made people ask, did she truly not understand the gravity of what she'd done? Or worse, did she understand it completely and just didn't care? I want you to really think about that. What kind of mind smiles through something like this? For all that Tamara Samsonova wrote, there's just as much that she didn't. Several dates in her diary had detailed entries. Others just had a name, or a strange symbol, or a word in another language that didn't seem to fit. Investigators cross-checked her timeline with missing persons records, but many entries were just too vague. One line read, "Night of the crescent moon, one less to feed." What does that mean? Some believe there are more victims unknown, never reported, never found. People who were maybe forgotten by society. And that's exactly why she chose them. It's possible she targeted people on the edges, tenants, drifters, elderly friends, people who wouldn't cause much noise if they disappeared. And that might be the most disturbing part of all. We don't know how many were out there, or if we ever will. Even after her arrest, several cold cases from the 2000s remained open in St. Petersburg. Some involved bodies found dismembered with no clear suspects. Others were just vanishings. One man, a janitor from a nearby block, was last seen helping Tamara carry groceries. He was never seen again. His name never appeared in her diary, but neighbors remembered the two of them talking often. Another case involved a woman who sold herbs and spiritual items in the local market. She had told a friend that Tamara's place gave her chills. She went missing weeks later. No connection was ever confirmed, but the coincidences, they keep piling up, and it raises the question: was Tamara Samsonova more than just a lone killer? Was she part of something deeper? Or was her mind so far gone that even she didn't remember what she had done? Looking back, the most haunting thing isn't the details of the crimes, as gruesome as they are. It's how easily she hid them. A kind, aging woman. Helpful. Soft-spoken. Even when suspicion grew, she wasn't feared. She was pitied. People offered her help, brought her food, trusted her. And that's the horror. Because if someone like Tamara could live among us unnoticed, quietly doing things most of us can't even imagine, then how many more are out there? People we pass on the street, smile at in the hallway, wave to at the store. What if the scariest monsters aren't the loud ones, but the ones who never raise their voice? Years have passed since Tamara Samsonova was taken to the psychiatric hospital in Kazan. She's still alive, still under supervision, and still a mystery. Russian authorities rarely speak about her now, but her story never faded. In online forums, podcasts, and documentaries, she's become almost a myth, the Granny Ripper. A nickname that somehow softens and sharpens her image at the same time. Not many serial killers are women. Even fewer are over 70. And almost none leave behind such a terrifyingly calm trail of clues like breadcrumbs no one noticed until it was too late. To this day, her diaries have not been fully released. Some pages remain sealed by investigators. Too disturbing, too confusing. Or maybe they hold names of people who were never found. And the truth is, we still don't know how many entries in that diary were real and how many were delusions. That's what makes her story so unsettling. Because there are gaps in her timeline, gaps in her memory, and gaps in the justice system. And sometimes silence is the loudest sound of all. Before I end this, let me ask you something. What if Tamara Samsonova had never been caught? She was 71 when she was finally arrested. And if not for that final mistake, dragging a bag of body parts caught on camera, would we have ever known? She might have kept going, kept smiling, kept waving to neighbors, writing in her diary, and no one would have suspected a thing. That's the real horror here. She didn't kill out of rage, or for money, or even for revenge. She killed quietly, methodically, and with a strange kind of peace. So now I want to hear from you, not in the comments, but right here as you're listening. What do you think drove her? Mental illness, hidden darkness, or something we'll never fully understand? Because in the end, the scariest killers aren't the ones we fear from a distance. They're the ones we never see coming. The ones who smile and wave like nothing ever happened.